So what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is a term first defined by Claude Bernard in 1865. It means maintaining a constant internal environment. Wow, great. That really explains it, doesn't it? Let me try and make it a bit clearer then. Imagine the cockpit of a plane. It is packed full of dials and it is the pilot's job to make sure they all stay in the right place. If any of them change, he will correct the plane to keep them in the right place and the plane in the air. This is a bit like how our brain works. Sensors all around the body are measuring various things and sending the information back to the brain. The brain then does its best to keep all these things stable and constant to keep the body working properly. This is homeostasis, maintaining a constant internal environment. So what kind of things need to be kept constant in the body? Well, it's very important to keep our temperature the same at around 37 degrees Celsius. You can find out more about this in the video on temperature regulation. You also need to keep the levels of sugar in the blood constant along with levels of ions and water. Your blood pressure needs to be carefully monitored along with the amounts of waste in the blood such as carbon dioxide and urea. Okay, so let's say one of these factors goes too high or low. What is the brain going to do to get it back to the normal levels? The answer to that is negative feedback. Negative feedback is the process where the brain uses either a hormone or nervous system to send a signal to the part of the body that can rectify the problem. For example, after you eat a meal, your blood sugar level increases. You can see it on this graph. This is detected and the pancreas will release a hormone called insulin that causes the sugar to be stored in the liver. Therefore, as you can see on the graph, the blood sugar level returns to normal. Negative feedback is the loop from which the body detects the stimulus, reacts by responding accordingly, and brings the body back to the normal levels. So why is homeostasis so important? Our metabolism, which is all the chemical reactions in our bodies that keep us alive, is controlled by enzymes. These enzymes only work in very specific conditions. If these conditions change, they could stop working and we could die. Luckily, all this happens without you having to think about it. If you had to do it yourself, you would spend all day and night just trying to keep all these things constant and would have no time to do anything fun like watch videos of cats on the internet.
Actually a negative feedback loop, we can see that the negative feedback brings the body back to the set point, which in this case is a stable temperature, keeping homeostasis. Negative feedback is also going on in the regulation of your glucose, your blood sugar. Okay, we're really simplifying this here, as we often do. But when glucose, blood sugar, is too high, one hormone that is released is insulin. I always imagine insulin as this hormone that makes the cells say, "feed me," because it has the ability to make cells take in glucose. On the flip side, if glucose is too low in the blood, a hormone called glucagon can be released. This hormone can have many effects, and one of them is that it can cause the liver to release glucose into the blood. There's more to the regulation of blood sugar than this, but you can see how this is negative feedback. You have counteracting responses here in order to keep homeostasis. So, what about positive feedback? Positive feedback is when, instead of getting a counteracting response to some variable, you instead intensify the variable. Positive feedback can be like more, instead of let's counteract this. The example that always stuck with me when I was a student is the example about the human baby being born. In biology classrooms everywhere, it's a classic example. When a human baby is ready to be born, there is pressure on the cervix, and that pressure and the hormones involved cause contractions of the uterus, because that's a big part about how the baby is going to be born. More release of hormones will equal more contractions and pressure, which will cause more release of hormones. And more release of hormones will mean more contractions and pressure. Contractions help get the baby out, but it's also a part of a beautiful illustration of what positive feedback can do. So why do we care about feedback? Other than, the importance of negative feedback in maintaining homeostasis and the role of positive feedback in many body processes. Well, we also need to understand feedback so we can understand what is happening when there is a problem in the feedback systems. One example, perhaps you've heard of type 1 diabetes. It's a disorder that can mean that your pancreas, which is an organ that is involved with making some hormones like insulin, is not working correctly. Insulin is not produced, and because of that, one issue is that you're not going to be able to get glucose, the blood sugar, into your cells. Now, glucose outside of the cells cannot be used in cellular respiration. The cells need to take the glucose in to make ATP energy in cellular respiration. Therefore, your cells need to be able to take in the glucose to survive. So many type 1 diabetics need to give themselves insulin and monitor their blood sugar because the negative feedback may not work as it should. Well, that's it for the Meet the Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.